Hello, everyone, and welcome to our complimentary online seminar on staying resilient in times of crisis. The topics of resilience and leadership are especially important right now as people and organizations navigate the COVID-19 crisis. Our presenter for this seminar is Tammy Robertson. Tammy is one of our instructors at the University of Calgary Continuing Education. She teaches in the Emerging Leaders Certificate Program as well as in our corporate training program. She teaches on the topics of stress management, workplace wellness, and inspiring and motivating others. Tammy has also co-authored several books on succeeding in the workplace, and additionally, she is a media commentator on workplace wellness and building resilience and grit. For those of you who are interested in going deeper into some of the topics presented in today's seminar, Tammy conducts 2 full-day business seminars for continuing education: Energizing Your Workplace, Inspiring and Motivating People, and Stress Less, Managing What's on Your Mind. For more information on these seminars, visit our website, conted.ucalgary.ca/seminars. And if you would like to bring Tammy in-house for a corporate training engagement, we're happy to discuss that too. You can contact us at contedcorporate@ucalgary.ca. Go ahead, Tammy.
Thank you, Jared. Some of you may be joining for a coffee or listening over the lunch hour. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining me today. So here we are in seven weeks into this pandemic, and we're all in this together. That may sound so cliche, and yet it's true. This is unprecedented. We have never before faced a common threat and relied on each other to get through it. We are living through a crisis, and we're in it for the long haul. There's no quick fixes and no certain or easy remedies ahead. And so I want to really start with asking you, how are you doing? Where are you at today, and how are you feeling right now? Like me, you probably remember when it all sunk in, when you heard that we're in a pandemic and that we were going to be at home and we weren't going to be able to go out and do the things that we'd normally do. My first response was really shock and disbelief, and then a lot of fear about how am I going to handle all of this. And I cried, and you probably went through a lot of that yourself. But now that we're into almost our second month, I've noticed that there's a real different feeling in the air. There's a heaviness and fatigue and a sense of being tired, and that I've already worked so hard, and now I'm done. I'm feeling finished. And one of the things that's really important, we're not done yet, and we need to be resilient. Part of what resilient is that it's this ability to persevere, just to keep on going when it gets hard. And when we're tired and exhausted, it's the ability to carry on, and that isn't easy at all. This pandemic may be the master class on resilience. Adversity is like a vaccine. It's an immune shot for your resilience. And if you think about any time you've had to muster up some resilience, the things that you've been through, I'll bet there was a time, or it involved a time, where the path ahead of you seemed to run out, where there was a roadblock. You couldn't continue going in the direction that you were going. It's a full stop, and you might have felt alone or lost or confused. And that's what we're all feeling right now. There's a sense of big uncertainty. It requires us, and it teaches us at the same time. So on the other side of this, not only will we have been resilient, we will have built up our resilience. I remember when I went through a divorce, and that was 15 years ago now, but one of the things that really was difficult for me, one of the most difficult things, was this feeling of, when is it going to end? When is this going to be over? When will things get back to normal? And I talked to my counselor, and I asked her those questions, and she said, well, Tammy, it takes as long as it takes. And I thought that was such a lame answer. And really that's where we're at right now, is we don't have any timelines around this thing, and it's accessing all of our reserves, and it's hard. So walking through it actually helps us to develop patience, flexibility, a deep confidence and strength, and belief in yourself. It builds our ability and our capacity to respond in times like this that are filled with volatility, constant changes, and uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And so in order to get resilient, we actually have to experience some things, and we get stronger as a result of that. I want to talk for a few minutes about this idea of grief and depression, because they're very different things, and we need to be able to discern the difference. Most of us are feeling right now, what most of us are feeling right now is grief. And grief is a natural human response to loss. And we have so many losses going on. Not just do we have personal losses, we have collective losses. We don't have just personal grief, but we're experiencing a collective grief. And there's a heaviness in the air, and it's pervasive. And it's, it's a heavier lift than any of us thought that we would ever have expected in our lifetime. And so it's not really something we can compare. The loss that your kids might be feeling is a loss of not being able to have their graduation ceremonies. Some people are feeling the loss of weddings and even funerals, and a loss of job or health. They're not really comparable. One person's loss is as hard as another person's, even though they're quite different. And one of the things that we'll experience is these 5 levels of grief. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross did the research here, and these stages are descriptive. They're not prescriptive, and they don't need to follow in any exact order. But some of the range of feelings you might experience are, number 1, denial, that feeling of this is no big deal. It's just the flu. It'll go away. It only hits people who are old. It's if it got me anyway, I'm healthy enough, I would get through it. And the second stage is anger, and that's the stage where we realize we're making sacrifices and we're not happy about the losses. We have no freedom, not like we've ever experienced before. We're not able to go to concerts or to the movie or to theaters. And you'll see some people even protesting that they don't want the measures that have been imposed upon us, or that we have freely taken on in order to protect one another. The next stage is bargaining, where we say, you know what, I'll do it for a month, but after a month, that's it, I'm out. I'm not doing it any longer than a month. Or I'll go in seclusion with my family, but I want to at least see my 2 best friends. And the 4th stage is sadness, and sadness is the heartbreak. It's that collective compassion that we experience, not just for ourselves, but for other people. And then we get to the 5th stage of acceptance. And acceptance is, okay, I get it. It's happening, it's real. And we start to ask ourselves, what can I do? Where do I start? What can I do tomorrow? There's another stage of grief that's recently been added by David Kessler, who co-wrote with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And he suggests that the last, or the 6th stage, is actually meaning. And meaning is a place where we start to understand the sacrifices, the hardship, and what we're doing, and how it's leading to some greater good on the other side, or at the end of it all. It's about finding purpose in our effort. And it's not a bypass for pain. It doesn't mean that suddenly the pain goes away once you get to meaning. It's really what helps us to walk through the pain, to keep going in spite of the pain. So we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of our time here. But if you've experienced an avalanche of these feelings, and they could happen all in one day, maybe all in 1 hour, we go up and down a little bit like a roller coaster. If you're experiencing that, or somebody around you is, a really good question is to just ask, am I okay right now? Because if we're quiet and silent and enough to take a deep breath and actually ask ourselves that question, what we'll find is that we are okay right now. And that most of the pain that we experience is in our head when we're worried about what's going to happen tomorrow or next month or next year, or we're feeling guilty or regret or bad about what's already happened. But being in this moment is a great way to recover from the tsunami of emotions that we might experience as we go through this. There's also an inclination, if we start to get tired, we can easily talk ourselves out of staying invested and engaged, and ask ourselves questions like, who cares? So what? What's the point? Why bother? It's no use. And when we do that, we take ourselves off the playing field. And one of the things that I think is so important right now is to continue to play your game. And what I mean by that is to stay engaged, is to be on the field. And, you know, like in a sporting event, you get roughed up a little bit, you get taken down, our ego is bruised, and we get up and we brush ourselves off and we keep on going. It's important to stay on the field. We can't sit this one out. If we take ourselves off the game, out of the game, we start to lose traction, and we start to spiral down a little bit. The thing that's hard about staying in the game is that we don't know the rules, right? And they're changing constantly, and we make mistakes. I want to say this to you, and that is that everybody is making mistakes right now. Nobody has all the answers. We're all winging it. We're trying the best we can. And believe me, most people are not paying attention to your mistakes because they're too busy correcting their own. So it's hard, but we can continue to play and stay invested. The game goes on, the rules change, positions change. You can do this. Just keep on playing. And when you're feeling like this, you can ask yourself a few questions. Like, what can I do right now? And what is my best action? What step can I take now? You know, what we're in right now is a little bit like driving in the fog. You can only see as far as your headlights in front of you, but you can make the whole journey that way. And so we have to resist the idea that we need certainty about what it's all going to look like, and just take the action that we can right now. What's possible in the next hour, in the next day? I think it decreases the overwhelm a little bit and makes it more manageable. So the three key ideas that I want to touch on for the rest of this quick talk is, what are the essential habits that help us to be resilient? And how do we stay positive, maintain a positive perspective in this bad news cycle where it's pervasive and it creates a lot of worry and fear? How do you stay positive? And then how do you actually get to that sixth stage of meaning and find some reason and purpose behind the hardship and the actions that we're required to take every day? When I think about essential habits, of course, the thing that comes up is we need to get enough sleep. And, you know, that's hard, but try to get enough sleep, because if you don't sleep, everything else becomes way harder. Get outside, get some exercise, move your body, eat healthy. These are all things we all know about. You know, it's taken me a while personally to get in the groove. I finally have a habit that feels so restorative. I get out every day, most days anyway, and I listen to a podcast as I'm walking through the park. It's about 45, 50 minutes. There's some hills, so I'm getting some exercise. The podcast, I love listening to Brene Brown or Michael Bungay-Stanier, and I feel energized and inspired at the end of it. But what I really want to focus on are, so how do you get your day started then? If, you know, we can only manage one day at a time. It's like 1, 2, 1, 2, what's ahead today? But I begin my day, get it rolling by asking myself some questions. The first one is, where am I on a scale of 1 to 10? I actually write this down. I mean, this is historical. You're going to go back and look at this time, and having a written record of it might be something that you want for yourself. But I'll ask myself, where am I on a scale of 1 to 10? You know, for the first while, I couldn't get above a 5 or a 6, and I would normally say, I mean, it's subjective, but normally I would say it would be about an 8. So it took a while, but it helps to know where you're at and to acknowledge the feeling you're in. The second question is, what are the 3 good moments from yesterday? This helps a lot to be able to go back and know that even while we're experiencing so much discomfort, that there's still joy in moments. And when you recount them, you claim them again, you feel them over again. You might notice that a good moment was, when the delivery guy came and you did a little happy dance because you don't know what's in your package, but you know you got something. Maybe it's having a conversation with somebody. And I think, that's really important, just being able to listen to somebody and let them know, I know it's hard and you're not alone and we're going to get through this. Listening is what heals us. So maybe it was a moment like that, or you bought some groceries for somebody. What are the 3 most important things I want to do today? This one is really important because it helps us to manage the overwhelm. And again, I'm not sure where you were thinking, but when this first happened, what I was thinking is, oh man, I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to bliss out. I'm going to read some really good books that I haven't got to. I haven't done any of that. There is so much newness in our environment and so many requirements to get up to speed on like this Zoom call and webinars and podcasts and shifting your own technology and having an environment where you're quarantined maybe with your kids and your dog and your spouse and you're trying to work at the same time. There's a lot to take care of. So what are the 3 most important things you do? It helps decrease the overwhelm. It helps you to focus on what you really want to get done in a day. And maybe the last one is, how do I want to show up today? I think that's important because anxiety is contagious, and your energy, your mood is going to impact your family. It'll even impact your fellow workers on a Zoom call. So we can take responsibility for managing our own mood by deliberately asking ourselves, this isn't something you can do passively. It's a decision that we make to get our mood set for the day. So maybe you want to be present. Maybe you want to be compassionate today, or just curious and ask a lot of questions and be open-minded. But you can choose that ahead of time. I heard Queen Elizabeth recently said that we'll all get through this time, and when you look back on it, I hope you are proud of how you responded. And I think that question gets to that for all of us. The second idea is to maintain a positive perspective. And this is hard if we're listening to a lot of news. So right off the bat, if you're listening to more than an hour of news a day, it's probably too much. And if we can put a limit around it, that really helps. It decreases our own anxiety and what we pass on to other people. But here's some advice that I really like, and it's, stop trying to be happy and be hopeful instead. So that's what it's about, is can we see what good could come from this? Can we be hopeful about a better experience on the other side? And one of the quotes that I've always loved is one by Bill Gates. And it's, optimism isn't a passive expectation that things will get better. It's a conviction that we can make things better. What I really like about this quote is that it's not passive, and that it suggests that each one of us can do something to have a positive impact in the day, and that we all have a part to play. And again, that we can't sit this one out. So what are the small things that make you feel better? This also shifts when we have a feeling of empathy. Empathy can be really hard because you're feeling what other people are feeling. And if you don't do anything with it, it just sits within you, and it could be sadness and heaviness. But compassion takes it to another step. So compassion is, I feel something and I can actually do something good or worthwhile. And so instead of pain, it creates a reward. And that keeps us playing in the game. So just noticing small things in a day that you can do for another person makes a big difference. And the last idea is, how do we create meaning? How do you get to that last stage where you find you're energized from a common purpose or a personal purpose? Recently, I came across this quote, and it says, nothing ever goes away until it teaches us what we need to know. It's by Pema Chodron. Nothing ever goes away until it teaches us what we need to know. Let that sink in. I start to think about that, and I think, what if this is a reset? What if this is an opportunity for us to learn, transform, not just as a world or a country, because there's lots of transformations that may be required for us to live better on the other side of this. But even personally, what can we do during this time? We're going to come out of it one way or another. We can look back on it and say, did I make my time count? Did I learn something? Some people are learning to play the piano, or decided to make it a personal goal to get fit, or to walk once a day, or to read the classics. I don't know. We all have different aspirations about how might I walk through this and come out on the other side more resilient. Resilience happens when we choose to be bettered by an experience, when we decide to ask all those questions that have come up throughout this short conversation and reflect on them, and see if we can make some small shifts one day to the next. That's how we build resilience. So maybe we're going to make this time count by actually having some intention about deciding who or what you want to become, commit to it, and go after it. And maybe it's just about being more compassionate, or being more curious, or getting really good at technology, but you're using the time and making your time count. And we can ask ourselves again some questions. What has become personally more important to me now? And how does my story support a personal sense of purpose, and what makes me hopeful? Purpose is what helps us to make the sacrifices for a greater good. It helps us to keep showing up, to persevere, to do the hard thing, because we know on the other side there is something worthwhile waiting for us. And so I want to just sum up with this. It's a quote by Fred Rogers. Often when you think you're at the end of something, you're at the beginning of something else. So thank you.